How's it going, folks? It's Lobo and welcome back to the channel. And today we have a new synopsis for The Batman, and this is provided by Warner Bros. UK, and we're going to be taking a look at this through the eyes of IGN. If you're not already aware, they already had one of these official plot reveals, and for some unknown reason they have changed this because I'm going to be taking my first glance at it and provide you with my initial reactions and thoughts and what I think this entails for the movie in general. So without further ado, let's take a look at this. But before we do all that, I would like to inform you that if you're new to my channel or if you are a returning subscriber, I have my Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings reaction up finally. It is taking a very long time to do this. If you can see from the screen, I'm not kidding. It doesn't show the whole story, but it took officially 17 re-uploads for it to finally be on my channel, so that was quite annoying, and it's why I've been so late with certain uploads, but now I'm getting back on top of that, and we're going to start with one of my favorites, which is The Batman. So let's do this. Again, here I'm using IGN. You can use a lot of different sources, but I'm just choosing this one for the sake of this video. Just check it out on Google. There's going to be a ton of links, but I'll also include the link to this particular page that I'm reading right now. But again, I believe this is from Warner Bros. UK, but we'll know more in just a second. So, a new synopsis for The Batman has been released and leans into the year 2 aspect of the story, plus new details about characters like James Gordon. They also released a little behind-the-scenes featurette of Jeffrey Wright talking about Gordon. I tried to look at it. I saw it, but I tried to look at it again through YouTube, and they took it down. So I guess that wasn't supposed to be released, even though they did kind of officially with the, I think it was either the Long Halloween or Batman Year 1 sort of anniversary edition, something like that, some form of the DVD, which include bonus features. So I don't understand why they would take it down if they intended on including it, but that's just whatever. Matt Reeves previously revealed that Batman, starring Robert Pattinson as Bruce Wayne, will be a year 2 story, so while Pattinson's Batman isn't just starting out, he's not quite the veteran yet either. Yeah, you can see this clearly in all the trailers, the sort of rookie mistakes, the taking on bullets. You can think of that as when he said, "I don't care what happens to me," which is true. He doesn't really care about the well-being of himself, and he views himself as Batman. Again, we all know Bruce Wayne is the mask, but this really leans into that idea. And you can see that there are certain things where he's making mistakes. Matt Reeves has stated that you're going to see him make a lot of mistakes. This isn't going to be a perfect Batman. He's not going to be perfectionist or veteran. Again, he's very early. So I'm interested to see that because, of course, Matt Reeves has played out the idea that he will fall before he rises, but eventually he will get to that heroic state. So I am so excited to see the journey of that. This is seen how James Gordon, played by Jeffrey Wright, is a lieutenant in The Batman rather than a commissioner. That is true. This is similar to Christopher Nolan's Batman, where Gordon, Gary Oldman, who's my favorite Gordon, by the way, began as a lieutenant before moving up the ranks to the commissioner as the trilogy progressed. Excuse me. Yeah, that was in The Dark Knight, where he finally became Commissioner Gordon. You think about this, one of my massive parallels to this whole entire movie is if you've ever played the game Batman Arkham Origins, which ironically also took place as Batman's year 2, sort of when he's happening, how far into his career, and through like little interviews on TV, you can see Bruce Wayne when he says, "You've ran out of time," to Vicky Vale trying to interview him. It's a lot like this portrayal of Bruce Wayne by Robert Pattinson, where he doesn't really care about that facade, that fake little charismatic philanthropist playboy Bruce Wayne that he puts on for the crowd, and so he deters any sort of ideas or what the people might think, the suspicion that he is indeed Batman. He's not there yet, so that's where I see that huge parallel. And also in there, James Gordon was, I think he was Captain Gordon in there, so that's another sort of aspect, because again, every character, the Riddler, Catwoman's not quite Catwoman, you have all these characters who are not yet progressed to their sort of hierarchy or their prime state. Alright, moving on. Check the new synopsis below. Sorry, I tend to talk a lot, but let's get into this. 2 years of stalking the streets as the Batman, Robert Pattinson, striking fear into the hearts of the criminals, has led Bruce Wayne deep into the shadows of Gotham City. With only a few trusted allies, Alfred Pennyworth, Andy Serkis, Lieutenant James Gordon, Jeffrey Wright, amongst the city's corrupt network of officials and high-profile figures, the lone vigilante has established himself as the sole embodiment of vengeance amongst his fellow citizens. Yeah, this is true. Again, the behind the scenes featurette was taken down, but you can look it up and you'll see. I'm not going to include it in my video because I don't know if they're going to take this down, because for some reason, as I said, they just want to take it down even though they officially released it in a DVD release. Like, why would you put it behind the scenes as a bonus to purchasing a product when you don't want said product to be revealed? I don't get the thinking in that, but you can see from the screenshots that Gordon and him work hand in hand. There's also a ton of Jeffrey Wright interviews where he says it's sort of like the relationship between Watson and Sherlock Holmes, that partner and duo where they take on again, this is a noir-driven film, so that detective side, so they're going to be heavy partners in that. You can see, it kind of reminds me of Scooby-Doo when you see the pictures of him, Batman and Gordon using flashlights going through what looks like a broken down building and a mausoleum in the cemetery. It gives me heavy Scooby-Doo vibes, like, let's split up, gang, and look for clues, but it just fits the tone and the idea of the movie so well. And again, that noir aspect, which I think we've been missing so much in a Batman film. So it's all playing out very splendidly and it looks awesome. But obviously, Alfred is going to be a heavy ally amongst them. He always is, frankly. That's Alfred. You love him. But what my impressions of this Andy Serkis Alfred is that he's going to be have more of the militaristic background. So there's the potential of him, I wouldn't say sparring with Batman, but sort of giving him pointers or being one of the influences in how he trained and how he learned. Because again, if he comes from that military background, obviously he's going to have years worth of knowledge to instill upon him. We also saw that with Michael Caine's Alfred, but I don't think it will go into as much depth as this potentially. Again, that's just speculation, but that's just the impression I'm getting, because Andy Serkis has a more rugged vibe to him with that classical look, so I feel like he could definitely bring to life that portrayal of Alfred that we've seen certain times in the comic iterations. The expanded synopsis also offers new details on the criminal underworld Batman needs to face, including high-profile victims of a new serial killer. When a killer targets Gotham's elite with a series of sadistic machinations, a trail of cryptic clues sends the world's greatest detective on an investigation into the underworld, where he encounters such characters as Selina Kyle, aka Catwoman, Zoe Kravitz, Oswald Cobblepot, aka the Penguin, Colin Farrell, Carmine Falcone, John Turturro, and Edward Nashton, aka the Riddler, played by Paul Dano. As the evidence begins to lead closer to home and the scale of the perpetrator's plans becomes clear, Batman must forge new relationships, unmask the culprit, and bring justice to the abuse of power and corruption that has long plagued Gotham City. So that pretty much sums up, obviously this is giving you what the plot of the movie is, but based on every interview and sort of, I wouldn't say leaked, but anything that's promo, sort of official, cast interviews, anything that's public and made to be public, all sort of culminates into this one paragraph. And what I mean by that is, it's not spoilers. I'm going to talk about a bit about what they've said in interviews. If you just don't want to know anything about this film, then just click away. But I'm just going to say stuff that Matt Reeves himself has said and stuff that you can see in the trailers. Well, one thing that strikes me, obviously, is the fact that they use the world's greatest detective. That is something we have not seen in a Batman movie I don't think ever. We've seen hints of it, of course, in every single Michael Keaton's, Christian Bale's, obviously Ben Affleck's. We've seen hints of it, but never really diving into the fact. Because if you don't know, Batman in the comics is a genius. He is a genius. It's no joke when they say he is the world's greatest detective. That's a fact, man. So the fact that they're in itself bringing that aspect to life finally on the big screen is just awesome, because I want him to really show off his intellect and his and see, I can't do it because I'm not as smart as Batman, but his intellectual prowess, I really want to see that on display, as well as his detective skills. I heard, again, take this, it might be a spoiler, but it's just more of vague and very gray area reviews from the test screenings, but they say he is very smart in the movie. And that's something I'm very much looking forward to. Not necessarily a know-it-all, but I just like when Batman steps into the room, he's the smartest person there. That's what I want to see. So the fact that he's going to work with James Gordon in this, as I said earlier, as Jeffrey Wright stated, the Watson and Sherlock Holmes duo on the detective side, which is going to look very great. And I'm so excited to see. But again, it's just, I don't think we have enough instances where it's really showing off how smart he is. Because honestly, Batman may be one of the world's, if not the world's best crime fighter in the DC universe, but his best asset and skill, honestly, is his mind. And again, general audiences don't know that, so the fact that they're finally going to get exposed to this notion is very pleasing to me, because I've waited so long for it. But another thing here that has struck me was this line here: as the evidence begins to lead closer to home and the scale of the perpetrator's plans becomes clear, Batman must forge new relationships. So that first sentence where the evidence is leading closer to home. If you're not aware, there's going to be some Wayne corruption in this film. Now, there's a lot of speculation on what that could mean, because some people are like, oh my god, they're going to do a Court of Owls storyline and expand on it in the sequels. There's the potential for that. I mean, after all, Riddler did give a card that said who with an owl. I think that's just more a playful Easter egg rather than literally leaning into the idea of the Court of Owls. What I mean by that is, because there are a ton of Easter eggs. If you don't know, if you look on set pieces of Gotham, they have posters and propaganda that tease a lot of characters. Ra's al Ghul, believe it or not, Raish is there with the Demon's Quest. That's an Easter egg. There's Easter eggs to Flash, Wonder Woman, Superman, Mr. Freeze, Scarecrow, Joker. There's all these sort of Easter eggs, so I don't think it's just leaning into it like, hey, this is what I'm teasing. It's more just like a friendly Easter egg and world building. The evidence, when it's leaning closer to home, as I said, the Waynes are going to be corrupt, not necessarily from the sake of the Court of Owls, but you could just look at it as sort of this elitist group in Gotham, because obviously we have the crime families, Salvatore Maroni and Carmine Falcone and all of them, and they go head to head. And here, I'm unsure, because obviously I've not seen the movie, but I would think he would side with Falcone, because some people are like, oh, they're going to do some influence from The Long Halloween. And I can see a lot of influence from, if you've ever played the Telltale games of Batman, where it was Thomas Wayne who's corrupt. I think this one will do it as well, rather than Martha Wayne, because I feel like she would be the one who's going to sort of try to get her husband off of it. And why I think that is because in the trailer you can see when there's a overhead shot of Robert Pattinson's Bruce Wayne standing shirtless, showing off the muscles, but he's standing in a crime web rather than the one you see usually that's on a wall and you use thread. And there you have all different patterns, and it branches of photography with the mayor, the DA, and what it looks like the police commissioner. But there's one in particular that says the sins of my father. And that's where this line comes into play, because it was his father who was corrupt, apparently, in this film rather than his mother. And again, that's how it's been done in different interpretations, which makes sense, but I feel like he would be on the side of Carmine Falcone, because again, it just makes sense, because he is the more, I wouldn't say necessarily stronger, but he's the more prominent leader of the crime family, and he's the one who's going to really have his thumb and his fingers all over the police and that corruption. And you can also see in the first trailer, when you go into the mayor's house, there's little posters on the walls of his victory campaigns and such, and there's the Maroni drug bust, so obviously there was theories there that the mayor was in ties with Carmine Falcone. So if you look at that, I don't think this mayor's been around that long. But you can consider the mayor, well, one of the mayors in the past, Carmine Falcone and Thomas Wayne all in league together. That is, again, just like Batman Telltale with the mayor, Carmine Falcone, and then Thomas Wayne. So the heavy leading into that crime family sort of mafia aspect, which is cool. But it's going to be so cool to watch that in the movie, because it's something that we've not seen before, where Matt Reeves really said we're going to go into a young, early Batman, and then we're going to shake him to his core, and that's by the revelation that his father, his family, the Wayne money, the Wayne legacy is tainted. It's not what it all seemed to be. He became this figure of fear to torment the criminals of Gotham, to take out his vengeance. All that was technically for naught, because his family was part of the problem originally. They weren't the saints that he so revered them to be, and he essentially worshipped them, his father in particular, as well as his mother. And the fact that your sort of hero or your ideological figure, your idol essentially, is not what they seem to be, and it just flips your entire world upside down. So seeing that sort of revelation and realization come to light in Batman. I can't wait to see how he's going to react to that and how he's just going to take out his rage on the poor criminals, man. They're in for it, but that's going to be great. Also here, reading more, we just have just more things we know about him forging new relationships. That's plural, so I wondered what that could mean. I don't think of it as relationships with, like, multiple characters, because I don't know. That might mean Jeffrey Wright's Gordon, because I don't know how much of allies they are in this to begin with. I feel like in the movie they might start off as sort of weary of this Bat figure, and then as the murders and the Riddler's sort of quest progresses, then they're going to really work together, and then I feel like Gordon will look him in that light as, hey, this guy's an ally, I can trust this guy, and he's a little out of his mind, but he won't kill, so he's within the judicial system, or at least the one that he's trying to set in a corrupt police force. So I feel like that could be one of the relationships. Obviously Catwoman, because, which I was surprised by, where in the trailer she says, you know, maybe we're not so different, who are you under there? I was always under the impression that Selena Kyle in this film knew he was Bruce Wayne. I don't know why I thought that. Probably because there's so many set photos of them doing like the damn bike chase and stuff, and it looks like she's a large part of the movie, so I just thought they would know each other. So that's cool. Obviously that's a relationship that will grow. And yeah, I'm very excited for this. Unmask the culprit, brings justice to the abuse of power and corruption. Yeah, again, just more emphasis on the corruption, because obviously we know there's a lot of corruption going on in the film. The mayor, the police commissioner, which I'm just assuming because it would just make sense. That's Pete Savage is the commissioner, and then the mayor was Don Mitchell Jr., and Gil Colson was the DA, and all these sort of, again, this emphasis on lies and the riddle where he lies still, even in his death, he is lying. Why that means is, like, yes, he's lying still there, but he's also lying figuratively because people are still going to pay their respects to a false idol and leader who is not so patriotistic and what their goals and motivations were. So that's very cool to see. This looks like a very detailed movie, and I'm very, very, very excited to see it. The hallmarks of the Batman story are all here. Corrupt city bureaucracy, numerous criminal organizations, and villains jockeying for power. I've never heard that word, so I'm sorry if I mispronounced that. I bet I mispronounced a few. And Batman, but we haven't seen a Riddler on screen since Jim Carrey's take of the character. Batman Forever. Yeah, there's no mistake in that one with Jim Carrey's Riddler, with his, you know what I'm talking about. And he got the costume and stuff. A lot of people were mad Paul Dano didn't have his goofy ass costume. I'm like, that would not work for the tone of this movie. It would just look so out of place. But I'm very excited for the Zodiac Killer Riddler. I'll talk more about it when we have more information, because I've said a lot, not only in this video, but I tend to say a lot in anything Batman related. And I'm going to try to condense it here. I'm going to make another Batman video in the next couple of days, and that's going to be talking about spoilers. If you don't want to know the character, just back out now, even though you'll probably see it on my channel if you check it out. The Joker. Who's playing the Joker in the Batman? I'm going to be talking about that because I've been trying to make that video for a week because I've known about it for weeks. And I have a we'll get into it when the video comes out. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this one, and I would be so interested to know your thoughts on this movie as well, because I'm very excited, and I'm sure you are too if you watched on to this point, trying to decipher my madness. But yeah, I'm going to be covering the Joker in a couple of days, and just more of this content, Batman related shit. One that drops, I don't think we're going to have any content now because of Spider-Man No Way Home, so it will be sort of overshadowed by that movie, which is not a bad thing. That just tends to happen when a release is very close. But I would imagine late January, early February, that stretch is when we're going to have a lot of droppings of more marketing and sort of, I wouldn't say interviews, but just anything that would be in line with promo for the movie. Potentially a new trailer, because yes, I think there will be another trailer, because when you look at it, this is the last one released was called TheBatman-MainTrailer, and I feel like they would do the Batman final trailer with the tickets on sale thing at the end. So I think there will be one more trailer and a bunch of new marketing in late January, early February. So yeah, that's when I'll cover more Batman content. in a bulk. So yeah, again, hope you guys enjoyed this one. Let me know. And until then, I will catch you folks in my next video.